Welcome to Jets Rewind. This is Marty Shupak. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York. I'm joined by Ray Clifford in Marysville, Ohio, Ralph Schrager in Belmont, Mass. It's Thursday night, April 8th, 2021. We're recording this at 7:30, and it's been a big week. How you guys doing?
Right, it's 4 days AD after Darnold.
4 days AD, that's good.
Yeah.
We're going to get right into it, and it's a little bit old news, but the fans will get our view on everything that's going on with this and how it stands. But Ralph, you have a classic trivia question?
All right. Okay. In Jets history, they've had 3 players, non-kickers, that is, who have played 200 or more games for the Jets. Can you name them? And I'll give you a hint. They all played their whole career for the Jets.
How many games?
They played 200 or more games.
I think I know one of them.
And they all were lifers for the Jets.
Marty always knows one of them.
I'm guessing another one.
Wrong one.
That's a very good question, Ralph, as usual. That's pretty good. Ray likes to laugh at me, but that's okay.
Well, 'cause
anyway,
You always say the same thing. I think I got one.
I do.
Yeah,
right,
but Ray cheats. We know that.
A little bit of house cleaning today. The Jets signed backup defensive back Bennett Jackson. I guess he was more of a special teamers. They also signed Titans offensive lineman Corey Levin, who basically has been on I believe 4 teams of late, the Pats practice squad. He was a 6th-round pick from the Titans out of, I think, Tennessee, Chattanooga. And the only time he really played was 2017. He played all 16 games. So definitely
he's the only player in the league who's played less than C.J. Mosley the last 2 years.
That's right. So it's definitely a depth pick.
Deep depth.
Deep depth. Brian Hoyer visited the Jets today, and
Hopefully that'll be the only time he's here.
And we don't touch upon news, but apparently there was a tragedy, I guess, in South Carolina. A former NFL player, Philip Adams, killed himself after he killed 4 other people, and 2 of them were grandkids. And I'm a grandfather and a father, so I just want to extend condolences to everyone. He did play for the Jets in 2014. I did some research. He had 1 interception, 24 tackles in 12 games. So I guess from that year, you guys could maybe confirm it that 2014, he played under Rex. Is that right? At the end?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Because he was right after Revis left. They gave him Revis's number right after he left.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. He was. I saw his of all the teams he played for. The Jets was the next to last, but all the pictures I see on the internet is him shaking hands.
That's unbelievable. It's really incredible. And what's a really cryptic, I bet you his football card all of a sudden for some reason is a rarity. But anyway, let's get into the Jets of today, the good stuff. This was a wonderful week. I know my good friend Ralph Schrager was popping the champagne bottles for the last 4 days. I just want each of us to just talk a little bit about Sam. And I came to the conclusion, I'll start, that I kind of felt like I was trying to rationalize why I think he could be good. And then I realized when they let go of him, I did some research and I watched that tape of his interceptions and saw some stats. It was kind of like you're dating a girlfriend. You're not sure whether you want to break up. You're trying to convince yourself you like her. But once you break up, you feel so relieved. And I'll tell you, I feel great right now. Every day I'm feeling better and better, more positive about what the Jets did. Sam, 45 TDs, 39 interceptions, 6.6 yards per completion. He had 98 sacks. Most of them weren't his fault. Some were. Ray and I used to go crazy texting each other when he would scramble and he'd run out of bounds for a 5-yard loss. He just wouldn't throw it out of bounds. It would drive Ray crazy. I know my phone would explode, Ralph, with his text. So I want to wish him well, but I think the Jets did really well on the trade. I know Ralph was jumping through hoops. And look, we all hope he does well. I just hope he doesn't do too well 2021, just so the Jets get a better pick. And I think he has a chance to be a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be a great quarterback. So, Ralph, why don't you give us your feelings on him, Sam?
You know, when they drafted Darnold, I really didn't want him. I'll be perfectly honest. I preferred both of the Joshes, so I got one wrong and one right on that. But, you know, the minute the Jets called his name, I was a Darnold fan, and I really, really wanted him to make it, and I thought he would. But when you know where he lost me? He lost me with that ghost comment. I said, I don't want a quarterback who tells the world that you can get into his head. I mean, that just, to me, it was as embarrassing as the butt fumble, and they still tease him about it up here in New England. And I just lost confidence in the guy when I heard that. And I've just, ever since then, never really was a believer.
Could I just add one line he said that turned me off? His opening game against Detroit, after he threw the pick six, he turned it around, and he really had a really good game. And they asked him how he felt, and he made a comment like, you know, this in a way is easier than college just because of the way the hash marks are. And that comment stuck in my head. I said, what is he talking about? So, all right, Ray, why don't you give us your thoughts on Sam?
I'm just kind of unsure how to feel. I mean, I'm not upset that they traded him. I think that was the best thing for him and for the Jets. So I think it was the right move. And I think at one point I was afraid we weren't going to get anything for him. So I was pretty happy with what we ended up with. But in the end, I don't know how to feel about his career as a Jet, because I thought the Jets did him zero favors in the whole time he was here. Part of that was definitely his fault, especially that last year. He was a shell of what he looked like he could have been after the first year. But so I'm gonna root for him. I'm gonna hope he does well, and I'm not gonna hope they stink, because if they stink, that means he'll stink too. But I would love it if he had a great year and they were at best 500, 8-8 or worse. But if he had a good year, I'll be happy for him. I'll be a big fan of his the rest of his career.
Ralph had a question like, what percentage blame does Darnold get, and what percentage blame do the Jets get? And I'm going to add something else, Ralph. What percentage blame does Peyton Manning get?
All of it.
No, we'll scratch out Peyton Manning. But Ralph, why don't you start about the percentages?
I'm going to go 55 Darnold, 45 the Jets. I know a lot of people say you can't do anything without players, and to a degree it's true. I mean, there have been a ton of quarterbacks stuck on bad teams, and most of them fail because most of them don't have what it takes. But you can rise above it and lift your team. And I can give you quick examples. This year, the Pro Football Focus had the Jets as the 29th worst offensive line, which is believable. Cincinnati was 30th, and Joe Burrow's knee will attest to that. But Joe Burrow did really well while he was in there. You want to take a guess on who had the worst rated offensive line in football this year, according to Pro Football Focus?
I'm going to say the Chargers.
That's right.
Because
you see what that guy did.
Yeah, because I was gonna when it's my turn, I was gonna mention Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, but keep going, Ralph.
And if you watch some of Herbert's highlights, I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy hasn't even set his feet, and he's being mobbed, and he runs around. He makes phenomenal plays. But, I've been following football, NFL, for 60 years. It's the best rookie season I've ever seen, a quarterback have. So the bottom line is that, Sam is in the majority. He, like most quarterbacks, didn't have what it takes to overcome that situation. But there are some that can. So it's not an impossible thing.
Ray, you go. What percentage you think was Sam's fault, and what percentage was the Jets?
I'm in a whole nother league. I put 75% of it on the Jets, between not even necessarily personnel, but I think had they made another choice at coach, and had they worked on some of the offensive line as opposed to receivers, that he could have been a lot more successful. I thought at the end of that first year, he showed signs of being really good and could have grown. And then they brought in Adam Gase, and all he did was stagnate him. And then he regressed. And yeah, Sam was terrible last year, without a doubt. He didn't he didn't grow at all. He didn't have it is on him too. But I think had they made another choice at the head coach, and had they dumped McCagnon a draft a year earlier, so Joe Douglas could have been in charge the last time we had a boatload of.
Why, you didn't like the Ja'Kai Polite pick?
Well, actually, that one looked like an all-star pick compared to Hackenberg. So, McCagnon was terrible. So I put most of the blame on the Jets. As much as I think, that doesn't mean I think Sam would have been an elite quarterback now, but I think if they'd have done him right, we probably wouldn't be talking about drafting a quarterback right now. We wouldn't be drafted second either. I don't know that we'd have been, tearing it up either, but we'd have been, in the mix.
I'm like in between you guys. I said it's 50-50. I was going back and forth. I know Ray's going to say Marty's politically correct.
You're always going out on that big limb.
Yeah, I'm going on a limb. And, I wish you could break it down like for each year. And he just seemed to regress as the years went on. And it just seems everyone I heard would talk about plays. And the one receiver he kept missing open was Denzel Mims, who was hardly on the field. And it kills me because I love that guy. But he was missing receivers left and right. And it was just beyond belief. And look, Chris Herndon dropped his share of balls. Barrios dropped a perfectly thrown ball in the end zone. And Perriman dropped a perfectly thrown ball in the sidelines. But there were just too many mistakes. And my number one thing with the quarterback is how he sees the field. Sam just could not see the field. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was a lack of peripheral vision or whatever. So I'm going to say it's 50% Sam's fault, 50% the Jets' fault. And thank God that now that the Johnson brothers are giving everything to Joe Douglas. And we're going to get into this a little bit later. But quickly, I just want to add one thing. Next year, Sam Darnold, let's say he does play 16 games. 19 TDs, over under. Ralph.
For which team? His team or the opposing?
Carolina.
I'll say over.
Okay, any number?
22.
All right, Ray, 19 TDs, over under.
I say over 2, but I don't know how many over, maybe 22 to 25, somewhere in there.
Okay.
I think it's going to help him to be back with Robbie Anderson for one thing.
Right.
And Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be around though.
Interceptions, 14, over under. Ray, you go first this time.
I think he'll be over. I think he'll be right around that.
Yeah, I think that's a good number, Marty. You should have made it a half.
Yeah. I think that's what I was thinking, is 14's about where I think he might be.
All right, so we're gonna wish him luck. And Ralph had a question about Douglas. Maybe if he flip picks with San Francisco.
Yeah, is it possible? Do you think that he is finessing San Francisco? He knows San Francisco wants Wilson. He's making believe he wants Wilson. He'll take Fields. He'll move back one spot, and he'll get a second round pick for him. You think that's possible?
Never happened.
Never happened.
Because
on
the press conference with Joe Douglas, I mean, Samini asked him right out the question about, are you recruiting Zach Wilson's parents? And he gave a smirk or whatever.
Yeah, he did.
He said something like, "Oh, this was it." Steve Young said that you all geared in to draft Zach Wilson. And he gave a smirk, gave her some sort of answer like, well, Steve,
I don't think it was a smirk. I thought it was a bit of a smile.
Yeah, smile. Yeah. And he said well, Steve Young is he's tuned into BYU, of course. So,
well, I'll tell you the interesting thing that Douglas said was, he said, if if our pick was like 7 or 8, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Darnold would be here, which really was, I found very interesting.
Well, let me ask you this, Ray.
Hmm.
As far-fetched as it is there a bigger chance that Jacksonville take Zach Wilson or the Jets take Justin Fields?
Ooh, good question.
That's a good question. I think there's zero chance for either, but I
Gun
don't.
to your head.
I think it'd be a bigger chance that the Jets took Justin Fields if I had to pick one.
Ralph?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree too. I think so also.
But that San Francisco pick to me is the most fascinating pick. I mean,
It's baffling to me if they actually pick Mac Jones.
Of course. Well, that's the point. Everyone's going, they couldn't have possibly moved up that much to get Mac Jones, but some people are convinced
Yeah,
they're going to take
hear
him.
it too. I hear it too. But I'm like, you could have traded up to where Miami traded back up to and probably gotten Mac Jones there.
Well, question.
We're looking at it as fans. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of teams, including Denver and even the Patriots, that are trying to move up to get one of the QBs. I've heard different things. I would say that Mac Jones is going to go 3. And who do you think is going to go 4?
Well, that's Atlanta's pick. Nobody knows for sure if they're even going to pick a quarterback. That's
Atlanta's even said that they're willing to move back, so they could get a boatload. I would say that Matty Ice there has a few more years left if they want to hold off. That isn't really out of the realm of possibility.
Unless they want to take a guy like Lance and let him sit for a year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's the other thing that they say about San Francisco is they're hold on to Garoppolo and let Lance sit for a year.
Well, that seems more logical to me than drafting Mac Jones.
Yeah, that actually made more sense to me than Mac.
I don't know why the non-love for Justin Fields. I mean, he actually has a relationship with Shanahan. They were in some quarterback thing together, and it's very strange. But who knows? They might end up taking him, and everyone's throwing stuff up against the wall about what Douglas was going to do, and 90% of it's wrong all the time. They have nothing. Nobody has anything to do except to start rumors now, basically.
Isn't it amazing since high school how Justin Fields has always been in the shadow of Trevor Lawrence? And he was, but it seems like he's moving down the ladder a little bit instead of up the ladder.
He's moving down the mock ladder.
Yeah.
Right. He's doing that. And there was a rumor that his dedication or work ethic was not there.
Yeah, I don't even know if I buy that. They throw stuff out. They threw stuff out about Zach Wilson. He's a spoiled brat, which is all crap. I don't believe any of this stuff until totally. But
Ralph, I get phone calls every year from Ray about these Ohio State quarterbacks, and he gives me the line. He can make every throw.
Well, I think he can, but can he do it?
But
with 2 minutes left in the game and they're down by 6 points. That's the question.
The one thing I will say, because that's come up more than once, and it was a big topic here when they lost that game to Clemson the year before. He didn't miss Olave at the goal line that could have been the winning touchdown. Olave broke the wrong way.
That's true, but he lost the game in the first quarter because 3 times they were in the red zone. He couldn't get it in the end zone.
The running back dropped one sure touchdown, and the other one came out when he hit the ground. So
I'm not going to bash on Fields. I think he's talented, and I hope he makes it.
I'll be shocked if he doesn't go before Mac Jones, especially if it's San Francisco.
It could happen, which is crazy.
It could happen. It just boggles my mind.
I'm just kidding you about those Ohio State quarterbacks.
Well, most of them haven't panned out.
All right.
Let's be real. Most of them haven't.
Question. I don't know who the Jets going to get for a backup with veteran. I don't know if it's going to be Brian Hoyer. I don't know who it's going to be, but does Zach Wilson start from day one?
Right. I would say I'd have no problem with a competent veteran playing a few games. But my hunch is that Wilson's just going to be better than those guys in preseason. And I think the coach is going to have to go with who he thinks he has the best chance of winning with. And I think he's probably going to be too good for those guys.
We
Ray,
have to, you gotta, all you can go based on right now is how the team is constructed. We don't have anybody. I mean, you aren't gonna start Captain Morgan.
What about Mike White? I think Joe Douglas is big on
I
him.
can't imagine those guys starting. So unless they bring in a guy, like if they brought in that Mullins that was on San Fran, maybe.
He's hurt
Oh,
anyway.
he's
I don't even
hurt.
know if-
He's not going to be ready for right at the beginning of training camp.
Oh, is he not here? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
By the way, Ralph, I spoke to Ray off the air about how there's a relationship with the Sal Brian Hoyer because he was with the 49ers at one point, and he actually started 6 games and he was 0-6.
Well, Brian Hoyer's played for a lot of teams and hasn't done well with any of them.
Right.
But the fact that they brought him in, it tells you that they are going to get someone else.
They have to.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. They definitely will. Now, here's a question for both of you: I'm of the opinion I love trading down and accumulating picks. What are the chances that Joe Douglas uses one of his picks for next year and maybe a later round pick this year? Let's say the Seattle first round pick next year and like a third round pick this year to move up in the draft and get another blue chip in the, let's say moves up in the top 10. Will that get him in the top 10, Ralph? You were pretty good on the formula.
Next year's Seattle pick plus a third. To like a team with what number pick?
Let's say they move up. Who's 7? Detroit?
Yeah,
Detroit is
yeah.
thinking of moving back. Let's say
So-
Detroit.
I don't know. I would say probably maybe not. Maybe they want more.
Is it worth it to do it, Ray, if you're going to get either Pitts or what's his name, the offensive lineman, Penny
Sewell.
Sewell. Is it worth it to move up, to give that much up?
Okay, now you're gonna have to run it by me again real quick.
They're trading with Detroit. They're flipping first round picks, the 7th and the 23rd, plus the Jets. They have 2 third round picks, but it's their own third round pick. So it's at the beginning of that round.
Oh, wait a minute. They're flipping 2? Oh, you didn't say that.
No. I didn't say that. I said they're
7 and 23 are flipping, and then
7 and 23, and they're getting the third round pick, and they're getting next year's first round pick.
Yeah, that's too much. I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
We're giving them our first round pick next year too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the second round pick, the one they just got from
No,
Carolina?
that's not his style. He's not going to
No,
do that.
no way. We have so many holes to fill. If we got to give up too much, I'd rather just draft and fill holes. I mean,
Well, okay. And again, we spoke about this, but they get Wilson at 1. Who do you want to see them get at 23? Ralph, it was up to you. Realistically.
Yeah, I'd like him to get an offensive lineman or a cornerback. Whoever they have highest rated at those 2 positions, I would take if I were them. Caleb Farley seems to be slipping a little because of the back thing. That would be a tough call. I think Greg Newsome and Caleb Farley are their best shot probably for a cornerback at 23.
How about Horn, J.C. Horn?
He's rising. He's going to go too. He's going to go sooner because of Farley's slipping.
I heard that J.C. Horn is kind of like the Jets type of player that they want, full of enthusiasm, just loves the game, can't get enough of the game. I don't know about his skill set, Ralph. Maybe you do.
He's talented. He's not going to be around, Marty. It's not going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen before Farley had his operation, but with that now, I think you can forget about him.
At 23?
At 23.
All right,
Definitely.
What about Newsome? Is he going to be available?
I think Newsome could be available. Yeah. I think that's a good slot for him.
Okay, then I think there's enough offensive linemen. And Ray, would you be happy if they drafted one of these shutdown corners and they go for the offensive lineman in the second round and one of the third round picks?
Well, first of all, as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing as a shutdown corner coming out of college that we can guarantee. D. Milliner was the last shutdown.
Well, unless they come from Ohio State, Ray, let's face it, they've had,
Sean Wade.
yeah, boy, it's his
torched
stuff
all year
falling,
long.
yeah.
But no, I want a lineman. I want an offensive lineman, period. I just feel like the further back we go in the draft, we're going to be hoping we get starters. And if Zach Wilson or whoever is going to be successful, I'll still, until they fix it, I'm just going to be stuck on.
Yeah, I can see your point. Yeah.
All right, Ralph had a question. Who's going to win more games next year, Carolina or the Jets? I'm going to say Carolina. I think they were what were they this year? 5-11? I think 2 years in a row. I think they were 5-11. And this is Rule's third year coming up. Is that right?
No, I think it's the
second year.
Oh, second year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember last year they drafted, every draft pick was a defensive player. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
And how did that work out?
Well, they're 5-11.
I think they're going to go. I think
remember McCaffrey was injured for
right
most of that year. And
my hunch is that McCaffrey will never be the same player he was.
Yeah, I wonder if he will. If he's back to what he was, they could definitely be in
running back. That guy has handled the ball a lot, and
he does.
This will change, but I think Carolina goes 8-8. They win 8 games. Well, actually, they're going to go 9-8, 17 games.
Oh, right.
That's right.
The Jets are going to go 8-9.
Yeah, Marty, that's pretty much what I feel. I think we're thinking alike these days.
I think the Jets are going to surprise people. I really believe in this Salah, how for some reason he's able to get into these guys and really motivate them, which is unbelievable, these type of players. He really is like a psychologist and knows how to handle these guys. So I really have a lot of faith in him, and I think he's going to get the most out of them. Okay. Ray, do you think that the Jets with Zach Wilson, they're just going to let him loose, or they're going to start him throwing a lot of short and medium range passes, bring him along slowly? What's your feeling on that?
I think they'll bring him along slowly in the beginning. Now, I think if he shows that he's grasping it, I think they'll open it up for him pretty quick. I think I look for the Jets to definitely be improved pending what they do in the draft. That could change my opinion, but I think he's got enough of that offense that kind of fits his skill set that I think if he's grasping it, they'll open it up fairly quickly to more and more stuff.
Ralph, your feeling about them?
I agree with Ray absolutely on that. I think they will start him slowly, but they'll see how quickly he picks it up, and then they'll open up accordingly.
After the I guess the 17 draft when the Darnold, Mayfield, and Allen were drafted? Was that the 18 draft?
I always get them mixed up.
I think it was the 18. Okay.
18.
After that draft, I remember listening to Phil Simms, and I like Phil Simms a lot. He doesn't say too many negative things about people, quarterbacks, but they asked him outright about, do you think the Jets should start Sam Darnold? And he said, I'm going to tell you my feeling on all those quarterbacks. I think they should start the first year, but I would hold them back to the 5th game, because the first 4 games of the year, all the players are at the top physical shape, but by the 5th game, they're just maybe wore down just a tiny bit, and they're coming in fresh. So I think that's a pretty interesting idea. What are your thoughts, Ralph?
Like I said, if I would have no problem if they sat him for 4 or 5 games, I think that would be fine. They'd have to have someone decent enough to put in there, though. So that's the problem. They just can't throw anyone in there because they'll be blowing the games.
Right. You know, the Jets still have some offensive linemen who I detest, like
Like all of them.
Like about most of them, right?
Greg Van Routen and Alex Lewis.
Yeah.
And from what I heard, though, is that Joe Douglas is biding his time, and he's not going to cut them till at least after the draft, and it might not be till like the first week in June,
Right.
which should be interesting. And Ralph brought out a point when we were talking about free agent that was only the first wave of free agency. There's still some unsigned free agents, but after June, there's going to be more cuts, and there's going to be a second wave of free agency. So hopefully the Jets, they might be able to get an improvement over these guys that they have now on if they don't draft them, which I think they are going to draft guys. I mean, there are so many good offensive linemen.
There are. They also pick up about four or 5 million in cap space, getting rid
Right.
of Darnold. So
Right.
and they'll need about 9 million to sign their draft picks. So they'll still have some money left. Yeah.
And Ralph, you had said that they already met with the offensive line from Oklahoma State. What's his name?
I didn't know whether they met with him
They
or
met
not. I
with
know
him.
that they were interested. You know, there's a lot of talk about Tevin Jenkins.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Tevon Jenkins, yeah. And
Yeah.
Ray, I want to ask your opinion because there's a guy I think he's a little bit fascinating. A tight end, no touchdown passes last year. His name, he's from Notre Dame. Is it Trimble?
Tremble, yeah. But he's a big kid, and they had a I can't think of who the main tight end was, but that Tremble kid could be a good later round pick. I wouldn't pick him too early, but most of the tight ends out of Notre Dame are good in size, and a lot of them are usually decent receivers, and
As
usually
long as we don't take a tight end from Penn State, I'll be happy.
Right.
You know, Marty, that 6th round pick that they got for Darnold, he might use that on a kicker, your favorite position.
We
So.
should. The guy from Florida, that's who I want.
Mm.
hey.
As we're in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
we're wrapping it up. Go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just, we were talking about that he gained about 4 or 5 million on Darnold by trading him. What's the deal with Crowder? Does he have to be a June 1st cut, or is that any time?
Oh God, Ray, this is your field. I can't.
I wasn't sure if it had to be after June 1st or if. But
Why do you think they actually might?
Like
They might cut him.
I don't know now. I mean, if they draft another receiver, I could see him.
Yeah.
They have another receiver on their radar.
What if they draft Rondale Moore? You think they cut Crowder?
There's a lot of slot guys. There's
several guys who could
Elijah
take
Moore from Mississippi.
That guy is great, Ralph.
Elijah Moore, I like him too. I told Marty about him that I liked a lot about him.
He's really, really good too.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get back to the trivia question before we wrap this up. Because I have my guesses, but go ahead, Ralph. Repeat the question for all the Jet fans out there.
3 Jet players have suited up for more than 200 games, 200 or more games in their career for the Jets, the most, other than kickers. Can you name them? Throw out names together. You guys are a team now.
Philbin?
No, you know what it is? They didn't have enough games there because I put Dave Herman.
No, not Dave Herman.
Not Jerry Philbin?
Nope.
Darrell Revis?
No, he wasn't all with the Jets.
Wesley
Walker?
Walker, no.
No, I think it's
Larry Grantham?
No, not Larry Grant. I thought he might be a possibility.
I was thinking older guys because
yeah.
Back then more guys stayed with the team.
Well, one of them does go back. One of them is like 60s to 80. One of them is
McDaniel?
In the 80s to 90s, and the other's in the 90s to the 2000s.
Wahoo McDaniel?
Go ahead, Ralph. We give up.
So number 1, 207 games, the most, Randy Rasmussen.
Oh yeah, Rasmussen.
Okay.
Third is another guy that I thought of immediately, Mo Lewis. He had 200.
Wow, I wouldn't have
But
thought.
the guy in the middle, 204, I never would have gotten a million years. Linebacker in the mid 80s to 90s. What do you think it is?
Kyle Clifton.
Right.
I would have never thought of either of those two.
Give Kyle Clifton credit. He wasn't that talented, and
but he was steady.
He stuck around for a long time. So-
Yeah, I never thought he'd even make the team at first, and he
Right.
just is amazing.
That's right. All right. For Jets Rewind, this has been Ralph Schrager, Ray Clifford, Marty Shupak. And until our next show, everybody stay safe, and we'll see you next time.